channel with me, JB. Hope we're all doing extremely well. Got to adjust this camera again. I hope we're doing extremely well this Tuesday, the 9th of December. This week's going quickly already. This month is going quickly already. It's going to be Christmas. Yeah, I can't actually wait. Welcome to Jaden, becoming a new legend of this chat. Scott, as always, absolute legend of the chat. The first thing to say, as I always do in these streams, is look, get into this community. It's a fantastic community. We may not be the biggest, we're not the smallest, but we certainly are the best. Very, very lucky to have this community, to have amazing people who don't even support the club come in and give their opinions as well. We do have some fantastic shows. I'm very, very fortunate to have you guys here with me. Second of all, respect. This channel is built on respect, so respect the chat, respect yourselves, respect me. Otherwise, the ban hammer comes out and you do get banned. We don't like doing it, but you will get banned. Second of all, look, I'm not a dictator of this chat. The reasons why these shows take so long is because I genuinely do read out your chat. It's really important to me that people have their opinion. We don't have to agree. That's why you guys come here and have your views. We don't always agree. Sometimes it may get a bit heated at times, but look, it's just because everybody is so passionate about the club, and even if you're not, this club certainly does spark a lot of debate. So look, get into the chat this evening. There's already a poll up, basically asking, do you think that we will make any signings in the January window? I'm going to go. I'm going to stick to what I've been saying the whole way through about what I think on this. Laurie, Whitwell of the Athletic, and the Mitten as well has been talking about this, and we'll go on what they've said about the subject of this as well. And it sort of aligns, look, to what we've always spoken about in this club, the no value in this club, and what this means. So again, look, I'm getting so annoyed with this club. Scott says Chelsea got beat tonight 2-1. Happy days. Look, Scott, as sort of as interesting as it is to me, in terms of I look at the form. This club is professing to be a top four side after the win yesterday. Look, I also want to know your opinions on Amorim now. Whether you were Amorim in before, Amorim out, Amorim shake it all about. We do the hokey cokey, and Amorim's in or out again. I want to know your opinions on that. Did you think we're back? I've seen some interesting things today about Mason Mount. I want you guys to get your opinion in on that as well, because I think that the Mason Mount debate is an interesting one as well. What do you think about the side now? Because we beat Wolves, who are on two points. Does that mean that we're back? I find it crazy in my mind that we have one win and suddenly we're back. Suddenly these players are great. Suddenly the managers are fantastic. But look, I'm going to shift it away from the players tonight, because the players have had their. We've called them out. I've called them out quite a bit. Danny says, big up JB. Danny, absolute legend of the channel. So, tonight I'm not going to really focus on the players. I'll sort of have I think we should have a conversation towards the end of the show about maybe one or two of the players. And it's not necessarily the players now. I've been through all that. I've given my opinion on the players. But I think it's the fallout of what happened yesterday and some of the rhetoric coming out from this club and some of our fans. Nicky T says always Amorim in. He wasn't backed properly by the owners. And Nicky T, look, I've been banging that drum. I've been banging that drum all season. Doesn't mean I'm happy with him. Doesn't mean I don't think Amorim's a bit weak. Doesn't mean that I don't think that Amorim is like a rabbit in headlights at times. But look, I've been saying this since Grimsby. I've been saying this the whole season. Nicky T, is this Amorim wasn't giving his players. These players finished 5th last season. These players have sacked multiple coaches. They aren't his players. He wasn't backed properly. He wanted Gwenda, he wanted Gyökeres, he wanted a midfield player. He didn't get any of those. So look, I am not letting Amorim off of the leash, because there are some tactics. I do think he's weak when it comes to these players. I think he's learning on the job, but I want to do something different. I want to do something different. Seabass Blue says, seems like Chelsea are always going out on the deals. Look, interesting opinions by Nicky Butt, Paul Scholes as well. And the rumblings are that Chelsea, would they go for Mainoo? I think they would. Again, I think they'll come to us and see a bargain. So look, let's go through. Look, I want your opinions tonight. This is the late show, right? This is even though we do a couple of late shows, we did one yesterday, but that was a match reaction. This tonight is a late show, right? This is I'll come in with some news and some topics, but this is your show. You control it. You come on, and we can talk about pretty much whatever you want to tonight. We never know where these shows will go. So look, let's start off with what Andy Mitten and Laurie Whitwell said. These two, mouthpieces for the club, get news all of the time. And before I go into it, the videos are there, and we've spoken about this on here as well. We always talk about this stuff. We don't share the same opinion, but we have said this is out there, and it's not for me to lie, right? So I've said this, I've maintained this the whole way through. We will not do anything major in this window. I firmly believe that the only signing that we'll do is a Gallagher on loan. We'll do some sort of cheap deal, but other than that, we won't do anything else. And Anderson is on the thumbnail, Belaber is on the thumbnail, Walton is on the thumbnail, and there are reasons for that, because we will go into this about what was said, and I think what the impact will be. So look, for those of you who are hoping, and I genuinely believe that if we want top 4 this season, we need to sign players, and I think this is some of this stuff that I'm going to talk about now, and we're going to have our opinion on it. I think is absolutely abysmal by the club, and just shows you the level of mentality, shows you what this club and what this team is about. Danny says 100% we'd be lucky to get a loan deal at the end of the window. So look, let's go through it. So Andy Mitten, Laurie said about the club. I don't sense that United will do anything in the January window. That is not the objective. So the objective is not to do any business in the January window. They also went on to say that I don't. It doesn't serve that they're going. I don't get the sense that they're going to get a bargain signing to cover them in the January window. I just let's just focus on those 2 points. Well, actually, he then goes on to say if Mainoo goes out on loan, maybe they'll sign somebody next summer. Will offer the best opportunity to get the long-term targets based on value and the contract length. Let's go through that again, and we'll break this down. Simon says if we don't sign any players, our key players get injured, we are stuffed. I agree with you. So look, let's go on to the first part of this. I don't sense that United will do anything in the January window. That is not their objective. Steve says all of the midfield we are being linked are levels above Kobbie Mainoo. We heard this song before. And Danny, this is what I wanted to basically say on this one, and then I'll basically refer back to the summer, because we've had this shit for the last 5-6 years, right? We will sign a token signing. I think probably the only decent signing that we did was the Bruno signing. INEOS are supposed to be new. INEOS are supposed to be this new dawn that many people were saying that INEOS are going to come in and they're going to revolutionise this team. The football side. You wait, you watch. Sir Jim is going to come in to this side, and Sir Jim is gonna make this side amazing again. All we've heard for the last 7-8 years is there's no value in the market. The Glazers own this club. The Glazers are running this club. It is, and Danny, you're right. The best in class is a load of fucking nonsense. Like we're saying here, Andy Mitten and Laurie Whitwell are saying this from the club. I don't sense that United will do anything in the January window. That is not the objective. What is your objective? I don't get it. What is your objective here? You know, we need signings. You know, Amorim is playing Casemiro and Bruno. They're not two proper midfield players. He's got Kobbie Mainoo, who I think will go or needs to go, and I'll give you my opinion on that as well. And Ugarte, mate, you don't play them. Like, how can we have one striker? As we've seen, Xerxes, I don't know if he's been injured. Xerxes didn't play. You know, Shesko, again, you know, I really like Shesko. He's coming back from injury, but he needs time. This fan base is not going to give him time. You know, this fan base will not give him time. Ugarte's abjectly terrible. We've got players out of position. Amorim is absolutely crying out for players. I've said this before and I'll say this again. Right, how fucking stupid. And these people are supposed to be business people. Let's take out the football, right? Even though we shouldn't, because we are a football club. Let's take this out, right? Sir Jim has, and again, we've been lined up for this. We've been lined up for this since a couple of weeks ago. Sir Jim said that he thinks this team is capable of top four. That tells you everything that you need to know. Okay. Now, second of all, is if you want European football, our squad isn't good enough. Now, yes, we are up to sixth. I mean, we played Wolves, you know, and again, look, that game is done and dusted. We beat 2 points Wolves, and these players were acting like they fucking won the World Cup. Mason Mount basically come out and said, I think that we can go on a push. I think that we can beat anybody. Mate, you barely fucking play. Like, I guarantee you'll be out the next couple of games. Like, you've come into this side and yet you played well, but you've only played like 30% of the games that we've had. Like, Mason, mate, I think you're a wonderful player when you are actually playing. But you barely play. So the point is here is that their objective is to finish in a European place, right? Their objective is to try to get the Champions League, right? Let's take out the football sense and let's get into the mind of this club, right? If you make signings and you, let's just say you spend, and I've spoken about this a couple of times now. If you spend 50 million, say, in this window, and what I mean by that is, say you buy two players, one who's 60 million, one who's 50, or one who's 30. You spread those deals out, right? That money that you spend in one go, say you've spent, I don't know, 40 million, 50 million, right? If you get into the Champions League, that is suddenly worth 100 million. Instantaneously. That is not without the home games. It's extra home games. It means you've got a bigger squad. It means you've got a better squad. It means you'll go further into the Carabao Cup. And people may laugh, but look, you make money at home. You'll go further into the FA Cup. You go further into the Champions Leagues. You'll get more sponsors. Yes, some of the squad wages will increase, but overall, you will probably make, just by being in the Champions League and having a bigger squad, 100 to 170 million pounds. And if you continue to do that over 5 or 6 seasons because you continue to buy players, that minuscule amount that you spent actually becomes exponentially bigger. So even from a business sense, it doesn't actually make sense. So I don't understand that their objective is not to ensure that your company, your football team, gets into Europe. And then the statement below that as well just sums them up completely. Let me get into the chat a little bit more, guys. Simon says, I feel there will be a few signings, but just how many we actually go out and sell on loan. Now, Simon, mate, I don't think you've heard this statement, Simon. I don't think you've heard this statement, Simon. Let me just go through this again. And look, guys, this is your opinions. I want to hear your opinions. Look, Simon, I hope I'm wrong. Simon, I hope that you are right, and I hope that I'm wrong. This is Laurie, Whitwell. This is Andy, Mitten. These guys go into the conferences. These guys get fed stuff by the club. These are saying, and they've been briefed by the club. I don't sense that United will do anything in the January window. That is not their objective. I don't sense they're going to get any bargain signs to cover them in the January window. Next summer will offer the best opportunity to get their long-term targets on value and contract. They also are not going to make signings because they need to know what picture they're going to have, as in there is flux. They don't know if they're going to have European football or not. And there we have it. There we have it. Because they're not going to spend money because they don't know if they're going to get European football. These fucking idiots who are in charge of this club don't want to make signings just in case they're not in European competition, but don't want to make the signings to get them there. They just want to cheap out. What they want to do is they want to scrape through to the end of the season with this fucking squad. And look, I can't stand these players. I absolutely can't stand how we're run. And we're going to have more losses. You know, Aston Villa could be an absolute murderous shit show. Mason Mount, look, Mason Mount had a decent game yesterday, but it was fucking Wolves. I mean, all this rhetoric about Mason Mount. Look, I like Mason Mount. I wish we had the fit Mason Mount. He would be such an asset to this team. But we are relying on Mason Mount, you know, Casemiro, Bruno, Luke Shaw. And these fucking idiots, it says they're the reason why they don't want to make signings is because they don't know the full picture. We're in flux and we may not have European football. I mean, it doesn't make fucking sense. Why wouldn't you go and sign players to make sure you're going to go into the Champions League? This because we're run like a big. It baffles me. Usman says, a friend of mine who knows Paul Scholes really well, and he said that where he is in deep talks to move over for a free in the summer, Heaven will be going to Palace on loan. Remember where you heard it, Usman. Look, I don't believe that. Look, I believe you, and thank you for the comment. Look, Paul Scholes doesn't know shit. Like I'm just going to say it now. Why would Paul Scholes know? Paul Scholes is not getting fed things from the club, and you know he's not because he criticises the club, right? Paul Scholes doesn't get tickets to games. Paul Scholes is we disrespect, not us. The club disrespects these players who don't play ball. Paul Scholes doesn't get tickets anymore, mate. Guehi is not coming to us. Why would Guehi come to us when you're going to have Bayern Munich, you're going to have Liverpool, maybe Arsenal? You know, look, if Guehi wants his career to fall off a cliff, come to us. And mate, look, I really hope you're right, but it just doesn't logically make sense to me. Now, Heaven going to Palace, that makes sense to me, but Guehi coming here on a free, mate, I just don't see it. And look, I will, Usman, I will remember what you said, but look, mate, I don't think he's coming. Simon says, we have 3 players going to AFCON, 1 or 2 players such as Maguire still injured. Sally says, because Shesko is injured, play Cunha in Burma up front, drop Bruno in behind, and he can give Mainoo or Ugarte a start. But the issue is Mount has been good when he's played. And look, Sally, you know, I sort of agree and disagree with that statement because I do agree with you. Mason Mount has played some good games. I don't think he's been... Look, all I'm going to say on Mason Mount is this. When he plays, Mason Mount, I will agree. He does look like he brings some stuff. But let's not forget, he hasn't played a big chunk of the season. even though he's played and he's looked good, as a collective, we've not looked good. And whether or not Mason Mount adds something to this side, we still draw a bunch of games. We still lose games. We still not played well. And let's not forget this: Mason Mount is injury prone. Look, I I like Mason Mount, and I keep saying it with Mason Mount. I don't class him as a long-term player. I really don't. Nicky T says they probably won't get Europe with no new signings. Steve says, from a supposed lifelong fan after seeing what the Glazers have destroyed at Old Trafford, all rubbing hands together for the Wembley of the North. And Steve, mate, do you know what, Steve? I think you hit the nail on the head squarely there. This statement, and I will go through it again because I think it's absolutely disgusting. I mean, who puts out a brief, right, saying that I don't sense that we'll do anything in the January window? That is not the objective. What is your objective? Please tell me. Please tell me what is your objective here. The objective should be best in class. The objective should be you look at your team. You look at what Amorim is having to work with. You look at what Amorim is having to do. Now you look at these players. And again, I'm trying not to go in on these players, and I'm probably going to refer to the squad, right? There were gaping holes in that squad. Whether or not what we're talking about, Mount or Shaw, there are so many players here, right? But when you look at the squad, and I'm going to refrain from naming players here, when you look at the squad, there are so many gaps. We want Amorim to have his side. Why don't INEOS? Again, INEOS should be adding to this side. Now, Amorim is not getting his players. Will be the third window. He's had 3 players. 4 players. Dorgu has dropped off of a cliff. And Bumo, he can be good. Cunha is okay. Shesko is okay. But they're not his players. He's asked for different players and he hasn't had his players. So, you're asking him again to go into another window. This would be his third window, and he's really only had a single window. What is he supposed to do? What are these players supposed to do? There are big gaping holes. There are big gaps, all over the place. And our statement is that is not the objective, is to do anything in the January window. Welcome to a mid-table fucking mentality. Welcome to United, the team that is penny pinching, the team that is run by owners who is no value in the market. And we've heard this time and time again. I want to believe that we are going to make 3 or 4 signings. I want to believe that this club will know that we are 1 or 2 injuries away from this season imploding. The season may implode anyway on the basis that these players are not good enough. They turn it off and on. We've got the AFCON. Imagine when the AFCON comes around and these players now should be going soon. What happens if we get an injury to Shesko again? Mason Mount will be out at some point. Luke Shaw will possibly be out at some point as well. You've got Mazraoui, like he'll be gone. Maguire is constantly injured. We've got so many gaps in this team that if our objective is there's no value in the market, and Liverpool will probably buy a player. Chelsea, we all know Chelsea, and I think Chelsea will have a cheeky bid for Mainoo. I think Chelsea could have a cheeky bid for Mainoo. I mean, what are we doing? I mean, it's just it scares the shit out of me. Sambuca says they are business people. They are making money. It's just all about the cost of the club every time. Simon says Mount had a great game. Thomas says if January signings are possible to look at, who would you like to sign as either striker or midfield or winger? Voted yes for the January signings. Look, if I know what we can sign and what we can't sign. Look, I think we need to go and get if we need an experienced striker. If I was going to go for I would go for a Tony, right? I'd go for that sort of play. You know, we need somebody who's probably late 20s into early 30s, who is out there that fits that mold, who can come in and give Shesko that support he needs. Neves at in the Saudi league, you know, I would go and get potentially him, you know, because we've got to look at realistic signs, because we're not going to go for a Belabor and Anderson. Look, I'm not going to talk about those guys because those would be the ideal players. If I could sign those players, I would absolutely go and sign them. But there's no point. There is no point, and you know, I've put them on the thumbnail because those are the players that we're not going to sign. So, you know, Thomas, we do need signings. You know, and I would go for an experienced centre midfielder. You know, somebody that's going to actually play. You know, I would then go and get an experienced striker. As I say, someone like a Tony. You know, and again, I don't know who else is out there. You know, in terms of that, in terms of the profile, because what we need in this team right now is we need experience. So Thomas, it's so difficult. So he says we're capable of achieving fourth, definitely fifth if we get a midfielder and perform. And Sully, my friend, look, I think that's an interesting comment, right? And the reason why I think that it is, because I'm not going to dismiss it offhand and go, oh, Sully, what are you talking about? Oh, you know, this team is awful, because that's what I've said. I've said I can't stand this team. Usman, if this, Sully, if this team can get its act together and turn on the light switch consistently, I don't think we're capable of fourth. And I should tell you why, because I don't think we are. I don't think we've got the depth. And when we're talking about we're capable of fourth and fifth, I think we need to acknowledge the entire squad, right? Our squad is not good enough for fourth. I think we could get sixth, possibly fifth. But look, you know, what we're going to ask ourselves here, Sully, are we better than Arsenal? No. Are we better than City? No. Are we better than a Chelsea? No. Are we better than a Villa right now? No. Liverpool could potentially come back into it as well, right? Newcastle, right? As much as, you know, are we as good as those top four teams? No. So I unless, and as you say there, unless we get some signings, and I do think it's beyond a midfield player, I think right now we're sitting somewhere between 8th and 10th. And look, Sully, mate, I hope you're like on our day, as we've proven, we can beat teams. I don't agree with what has been said last week by some of the players that we've played good and we're capable of beating anybody. We're capable of beating teams, but not in a manner that we should be beating them. You know, Wolves, we didn't win against Wolves because we played amazing stuff. We won against Wolves and we looked good because Wolves made us that bad. Usman said, doesn't FA Cup and Europa League this season mean it becomes a successful season? Absolutely, Usman. Absolutely. If we get an FA Cup and a Europa League, 100%. You know, look, Usman, I've always said this. I demand every season that we hold ourselves accountable. I demand every single season that we finish first. I demand every single season that we finish in Champions League and we win at least a cup. Not because I'm stupid, because I demand standards, right? We are irrelevant now, but I demand standards at this club. And if we don't keep those standards, which we haven't, this is where we are now. But I completely agree with you. I think an FA Cup, Europa League for me, I think is a fantastic season. Alex says, hi, Queen. Hello, my friend. Certain key players such as Ugarte could be on their way. And Simon, you know, Ugarte for me, let's have a conversation about Ugarte. What a waste of money. What was he? £55 million? What a waste of money. I don't think there's any redemption for him. I think we got screwed over. You know, I think PSG, and again, we took rejects and players who are over the hill. You know, we got done over for Casemiro, Varane. You know, as much as Varane was a good player, you know, again, what was he here for 3 seasons? Casemiro, you know, had a fantastic 1 season. This season, by no means is Casemiro a fantastic player this season. Look, I admire Casemiro this season, but he's by no way a great player. Ugarte, we got absolutely done on him. You know, Neves, we could have put a bid in for Neves from Benfica, but we, instead of doing that, we gave the money to PSG for Ugarte to give them the money to go and get that player. It is ludicrous. Glenn says, what time are United playing on Thursday? Well, you know, on Thursday, mate, we're playing at 2 hairs past the freckle, mate. We're not playing. We need to stay away from Baleba and focus on Anderson and Wharton. Look, Sally, my friend, again, look, I love that comment. I love your enthusiasm. I love your optimism. But Sully, Anderson's not coming, mate. Look, let's have a realistic chat here. If we are not in the Champions League, and look, right, I'm just going to read you the statement that has been put out there. They're not going to make signings because they need to know what the picture is before we go out and make signings. We're currently in flux, and we don't know if we have European. Like how can we not know we've got football? How can we not know because we're in flux? How can this club base not doing business now on the fact we may not have Europe next season? Sully, mate, unless we get Champions League, forget Anderson. I think forget Anderson. I think forget him. He's not coming. Forget it. Baleba, you know, again, there's talk of Bayern Munich coming in for him. Wharton, again, there was a statement made by Wharton's agent that Wharton wants Champions League football. So, you know, Sally, whilst I don't disagree on those players, I don't think we do it, mate. And listening to this stuff, you know, next summer, that they feel that we need to focus on next summer, and it will offer us the best chance and an opportunity to get a long-term target for value and for better contracts. I mean, what are you fucking talking about? So they're going to wait until the summer so they can grab a bargain. I mean, this is World Cup year. You know, they're waiting, that they don't know what the full picture is, and they're going to wait until the summer for the best opportunity. This is no fucking value in the market again. This is what this club do. This is what they're doing again. This is no value. If we wait until next summer, and they've even said the next statement that we're in flux and they don't know if we're going to get the Champions League. I said this at the start of the season. Liverpool made signings to make sure they're going to be in the Champions League, to make sure that they're going to push for a sort of league title. We all know now that that's not going to happen, right? Arsenal strengthened up because they want to push for a league title. City strengthened up because they want to be deep in the Champions League. They want to win a league. And what did we do? You know, you have to believe in it. And these cretinous assholes are once again coming out with, it's not our objective to do business in this window. They're going to wait until the summer to buy players because basically they don't know how much money that they're going to have to spend. I mean, European football this season is so pivotal this season that I don't think people realise that if we don't get it, if we thought last summer was bad, Amorim will have to work with his players again. So, you know, as much as I love that comment, I right now I think we need to focus on and keep the pressure up to get these signings. Somebody said, I voted yes for the Jan signings. I was hoping to bring Baleba, Wharton, Gabri, Viega, Vlahovic, Yeah, Maz, Thomas, mate. Some fantastic names, my friend. But look, I mean, I wish I had your I wish I had your drive. I wish I had your optimism, mate. It's just not going to happen. The standards at this club are on the floor and runs through the team, says Steve. We have a bogey team in Brighton in the cup. Can't they see the full picture of how bad this squad is? I don't think they can. Sambuca says it's because they ain't backing the manager. They will switch him out. And Sambuca, it's interesting. I think that's an interesting comment because I don't know. I don't know. It could be that. It could be that. What do you think about Johnny Evans? Thomas. I'll come on to it. Nicky Butt and things said as well. Look, it just goes to show you, Thomas. In my view, Johnny Evans has left. It is frightening. The guy's only been here since June, and I think that already he can see the shit state of this club. You know, the fact that he's cited that he's left for family reasons, right? Bullshit. He knows the state. You know, the fact, and the reason why actually I like Evans is because he was here. He's been through the era of success to a degree. He's seen what this club is about, right? And we've got players like that who'd rather leave this size club, you know, rather than get his experience here. He knows that we're a fucking sinking ship. So I guarantee you, with 6 months' time, he'll be somewhere else. I find it absolutely. I just find it just so wrong. I just find it so wrong that we've got players like, and you know, we can argue that we don't know if he was good at his job. We don't know that. But the fact that these players who have been here and custodians for the longest time, and particularly Evans, who gets the club, he knows what the club is about. He completely gets this club, and yet he's leaving after 6 months. It's scary. Freak said, did you hear Garnacho's interview? He said he doesn't regret leaving. I did, and I heard him backing Kobbie Mainoo and as well. Look, what we're going to have now is we're going to have him bitching about us. Any opportunity that he's got, he's going to badmouth the club. You know, I've got zero time for him. You know what he says, and I take it with a pinch of salt. You know, his idol is one of the hardest workers that we've ever seen in Cristiano, one of the legends of this club, and he sort of thinks he can be up there. The boy is deluded. Liam says, Guehi's nailed on going to Liverpool in the summer. Liam, my friend, I agree with you completely on that. United are more like the red jokers nowadays. Do you rate Garnacho? There was a time. I don't. Look, it's very, very difficult for me right now to rate him. Like Tevez, let me give you an example. Tevez, right? I rated Tevez. I thought Tevez was a wonderful player, right? Doesn't mean he wasn't great. When he left this club in the way that he did, it goes beyond whether or not I think this player is great. My opinion is biased now. So there's no point in me giving an opinion because I'd be biased. It doesn't mean that I'm right. So do I rate him? No, I don't. Doesn't mean that he's not good, but also I'm biased right now. So there's no point in me giving a valid opinion because it's based on bias. And I don't want to give a biased opinion on players. Danny says, hit that like button. Please do. Mandel says Chelsea is the best team in the world. I guess you can agree with me. Didn't you lose tonight? Didn't Chelsea lose tonight? Didn't Chelsea lose 2-1 tonight? Look, mate, I read out the comment. I love the fact that you're passionate about your team. Bring it here, my friend. I've got no problem in Chelsea fans being here. I've got no problems with you, bigging up your club. is fantastic, but I disagree, my friend. Andrew Kelsall says there's a player coming back from injury and player scored the second goal against Sunderland. He's ready to go, my friend. Who is? Andrew, just tell me who is, my friend. But Garnacho, once he came to Chelsea, he saw titles, so he's performing quite well. I would rate him 9 out of 10. Somebody who's a hardened Blues fan, I get it. If I'm playing devil's advocate, who can we sign in the January window? I'm not sure who would be the obvious choice. And Liam, mate, I as always, Liam, you are the voice of reason. Now, Liam always comes in with some really good debate points. I think you're right. Liam. But ultimately, in my view, if we don't sign players, and I don't want to just sign any players, I think we need quantity and quality to a degree. So what I mean is, look, I just don't want to go out and just sign any player. But we need to sign some depth. I think we need to sign depth. I think so. Look, if I was United, I think the one I would go for is a Gomez, right? As much as he plays for Wolves, I think he would be a decent player to get. I think he's got legs, and I think he would be one of those players that I think he would be a good player for now. I also think he'd be a good squad player. I think he's one of those players that I think would come into the squad. You'd almost forget about him if you signed a Baleba, but I think he'd be a good player. So I think if you could get him at a good price, and look, Wolves will probably say no, but look, I think Wolves are going down. So I think, are Wolves going to get rid of that sort of player now where his value will be the most that they're going to get, or do they wait to go down? So Gomez, to me, and I do agree with you, there is not a lot of plays to go for, but I think there is like a Neves to go for. I think that Gomez, you can go for the Gallagher thing as well. Look, as much as people don't rate him, I think he played in the Premier League. I think you had legs. So I think we just need to go and get somebody for a striker. I would like to go and get maybe a short-term experienced striker. We've been there before, but I just think that we need that. We need that help. But Liam, mate, I think that's a cracking comment. 1878 says GGMU. Amorim is going bald by next year. I won't be too far off that. Nathan says, we need to be better, but we're doing all right. Look, Nathan, and again, thank you for the comment, Nathan. If the only thing I'm going to say is this, right? If you look at last season, we're not far off the points. The only reason we are so high up is because it's so competitive this season. Now, you can argue, actually, are we doing okay because of the competitiveness? We're actually, considering how competitive the league is this year, you could argue that we're actually doing well. Nathan, my eyes don't lie, mate. I've watched every single game. We are not a good team to watch. If you're looking at Leeds, what they did, they beat Chelsea 3-1, or Liverpool getting smacked up, Aston Villa up there. We are not playing good stuff. And yes, I think we are doing okay. May it continue, but I don't think that we're playing well. I don't think that this will continue, Nathan. I think that what will happen now is that teams will get into their natural flow, and what will happen is, what you will see now is those teams who are playing well will now start to get into their stride. They may add to their squads as well. So I think what you are going to get now is you are going to get a possibly a gap, and then clubs like us who are getting left behind, we're going to be left to fight for the rest of the places. Yes, we're doing okay, but Nathan, do you want to do okay? And again, I'm not calling you out. When I come back on your opinions, it doesn't mean I'm coming back on the opinion. It just means that you start a debate point. And this is one of my problems with this club and what this club has done, right? Is that we sit here and go, we could have done better, but we're doing all right, mate. I demand high standards in that, mate. I demand better from the coach. I demand better from these players. The fact that okay is acceptable, it saddens me, mate. It really does. Chris says, I think Chelsea will get Mainoo for 40 quid, maybe. Simon says, we are going to rely on the young players before long. Simon, mate, Amorim doesn't like him. And, that's a scary thing. Amorim doesn't like Mainoo. And we can talk about Mainoo as well. Amorim doesn't like the youth. Amorim right now, and where I would love to agree with you, Simon, hopefully in the long term we can start to bring those youth players through. But right now, I think whilst Amorim is in this survival mode, I don't think he brings them through, mate. Ruben Amorim is lacking tactics and squad rotation. Eman or Gray, don't know. That's because he's gone bald soon. Chris, can you see Mainoo playing alongside Garnacho? How is signing players earning at least 500k a week how is signing players earning at least 500k in Saudi realistic? It's not, Liam. It's not, mate, is it? Like, it's absolutely not. But all I'm trying to say here is that if we could get a loan of that sort of player, which never is not going to come, right? It's not a realistic signing. But there was talk of him coming back. And he does have a massive contract. But if there was an opportunity to sign him, then I would go for him. But as the current state is, it's not a realistic target, right? So again, I've maintained this for the last 3 months. We're not going to sign players. We are. I think that we need to. I get that you're not going to get your targets now, but if we don't do something now, and we're not brave, we're not getting top 4. We're not getting top 5. I will be adamant on that. And Liam, you're right. Who do we get? I don't know. If all of you just support Chelsea, you'll always have a good night's sleep. We love winning titles. When was the last time you won a title? When was the last time you won a title? K Trant says Wolves are better. I'm still mad for letting Garnacho go to Chelsea. I'm not glad to see him go. Got a question. You beat us, but your opinion on why we're a decent team. I'll give you my opinion on Wolves, right? Is this? I've got utter respect after what I saw yesterday with the Wolves fans. And again, look, Wolves have always been in my view, have been a respectful team. Look, Wolves are not great, but I respect the fan base. I respect the fans more than anything else. Like, you've got 2 points. You've got fans who are going to the ground. Fans who, as we say on here, you fans earn your hard-earned cash, right? You go to work. You buy your season tickets. Your club is being run like shit, and despite you buying your tickets, despite you working hard, you protest. You go, I don't care. It's more than money. And even though your team has got 2 points, you're having a horrific season, you know the value of your club. You know that those players will come and go, but the fans will endure. You're going to be left with whatever smoking gun is left. You're going to be left with whatever the remnants and the ruins of Wolves is. And I hope it doesn't happen. You know, I will say this. I don't think Wolves as a team are very good. I like some of your players. I think you've been screwed over. But the most important thing to me really is what I took from that game is I've got a lot of respect for Wolves fans. Grimsby could have beaten Wolves. I'm only saying fourth. Hypothetically, I don't trust these players, and most likely it's not going to happen. But this league is wide open. So look, mate. I promise you, I'm not trying to call you out. And even then, mate, I'm not saying that opinion's wrong. It's valid. This season is so weird. This season is so weird. Now, everybody is capable of beating everybody this season. It is so competitive this year. I can't remember a season, other than probably the Leicester season, where it's been so competitive. Go to United, my fan club, United. Liam says, lads, 41.7 likes. Come on, help the channel out. Look, Liam, legend. Thank you, my friend. Any celebrations planned for when you get 30k subs? If and when that happens, I'm going to give away some retro shirts. I might give away 3, 6, but I'll definitely be giving away some shirts. It can only be UK based, but I'll be giving away some retro. Well, I'll be giving away some shirts. There's a website that I use, so I'll be giving away some shirts from there. And actually, on the website, they've got like current shirts. They've got like old school shirts, and I promise you, right? These shirts are brilliant. Like they're not the sort of shirts that you get from like a marketplace. Like they are quality shirts. So if we get to 30k, I'll be giving away some shirts. So so stay tuned. I will definitely be giving away some shirts. So so stay tuned for that one. The way United is playing, they can be called as red jokers. Yeah, you said that. I love United. Never said in Jan for, and said Sally, mate. I don't think you are my friend. I like you in a hypothetical situation, Sally. I would love to do that, my friend. Steve says half the first team is decent, then you look at the bench and your heart drops because there's nothing there. JB, you seem hesitant with every player we're linked with. Do you remember had their worst ever season at No Europe and signed Cunha in Burmo, Shesko spending 200 million? And look, I'm skeptical because history dictates, right? And the reason why I say it, like, history dictates, right? The rhetoric from the Glazers has always been there's no value in this market. That's not me saying that, right? That is the market. The statement that's come out today, look, well, not the statement, but the piece that's come out today, okay? Laurie, Whitwell, Andy Mitten, they get briefed, right? They're saying this themselves. This is not me picking it out of the air. This isn't my opinion. This has been said. I don't sense that United will do anything in the January window. This is not their objective. I don't sense that they're going to get a bargain signing to cover them in January window. Next summer will offer the best opportunity to get the long-term targets for value and a contract. They will then know what picture they're going into because they're in a state of flux, as we don't know. They don't know if they're going to have European football or not. And Usman, look, mate, I think what you're saying there any competent owners and competent club would do exactly as you say. But the reason why I'm hesitant, in fact, I'm confident, mate. I am confident, and it's really sad. It's really like, Usman, I hope I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, and we go and sign Belabor, and we go do some deals, like, feel free, Usman, to come on in and say, I told you so. I'll be happy days. It'll be happy days because I'll be happy that INEOS are trying to progress the club. I'll be happy the fact that we could then potentially talking between 4th and 8th. Usman, I would love that. I just know this club. I just know that the statements that are being put out now. Also, Usman, what you've got to realise is we made £34 million loss, and we can argue that we sold players in the summer. Some of the wages are off of the books. You can argue that as well, right? But this club made a £34 million loss. We've also got £500 million of the transfer debt and amortization that we still owe. So the money that we made in the summer is a fraction of that. So that's why I am hesitant, because if you follow the logic, if you follow the fact that we've always said there's no value in the market, we made a huge loss. INEOS are not big spenders. It's all there. It's all there. United will not get out of this result crisis for at least in the next 10 years. Original says January is the only chance for Radcliffe to put his money where his mouth is. I agree with you. So who is available in Jan to change us? And Sully, and I think as Liam, I said there, that is a very good point. But Sully, if we don't do something, if we look. If you think about it, Chelsea went and got Enzo, right? You can do deals, right? And look, you can do deals. If you are a progressive club, you can go and do deals, right? And look, it would go and the thing that, and again, Sully, I'm not calling you out here, right? And this is more of a conversation point, right? I'm sort of asking you guys, on this point, right? We've been so indoctrinated and so spun around to say that in this window we can't spend money, we can't spend big. But what's the difference in wanting to buy a Belabor? And I'm not talking necessarily about him, but I was one of the ones that was complaining and pissing and moaning because we didn't sign a player. But I was happy to shell out £100 million in the summer for a midfielder. Why can't we do it now? Why can't we go and do it now? Why are we limiting ourselves and saying, well, there's nobody out there? There is. Balabor's out there. Wharton's out there. Anderson is out there. Look, as much as we are not going to get these players, and I'm not suggesting that we sign them, but why are we limiting ourselves? It's almost like we're buying into the rhetoric. Chelsea came in and they bought a bunch of players, so why can't we do it? There seems to be, to me, and this is not a dig at you, Sally, this is just me talking, right? There seems to be this rhetoric. There seems to be this mindset that we have. Oh, we can't spend in this window. We've got to keep our pennies, because this is what we've been told for the last 7 or 8 years. If we were prepared to spend money on a midfielder in the summer, and we were told that the money's there, where is the money now? Why can't we go and sign any player? Go and put in a bid. Go and put in a cheeky bid, and then you go and do it again, because this is what we need to do. Whilst I agree with it, and that is a fantastic question. I think you and Liam are spot on. But why are we limiting ourselves? Wharton's available. Like every player has a price. It's just that we will not meet that price. Simon says, I would love to see us win in the next 3 games to round off 2025, but we do have 1 or 2 tough games, and I feel we could only get 4 points. And Simon, look, one of the things that I said, which really frustrates me, is this. If we had beaten Everton, if we'd have beaten West Ham, right, it would have given us a platform to be able to lose a game. I don't like to lose games, but if we'd have beaten West Ham, because the outcome of that and the implications of that are, because we didn't beat them, we now have to go away to Villa, who are unbeaten at home in 30 odd games, Newcastle at our place. So what it means is we actually, that game that we lost and drew, that should have been probably the Villa game and the Magpies game, right? But because we did that early doors, to even keep up, we need to beat Villa. You know, Bournemouth, and I am discounting Bournemouth here. You know, we actually need. You're right. We need to win these next 3 games to basically make up for the loss to the Toffees and the draw to West Ham. As we said, also big names don't guarantee improvement. Look at Liverpool. Usman, mate, I'm agree with you. 100% agree with you. But Usman, you can argue that next summer. You know that is a valid point. But also, then that's a valid point next season. You know, also if we buy some big names, which we're going to, because the plan of this club is to buy Premier League proven players. Why would that opinion? And I'm not saying that would be your opinion, but why would that be different to doing it now than doing it in the summertime? You know, this is what I mean about there's this. No player is guaranteed. No player is, right? Gyökeres at the Gunners, right? What's he doing? And I know he's been injured. What's he been doing? Isaac, right? Verts, those are all good. Those are fantastic. You know, I get it, but we are not the club. We're not the club to go into the Peruvian market and go and bring in a signing. But does that mean that we shouldn't do anything at all? You know, and again, to go back to that point, which I think is a fantastic point, like, why aren't we going into the French league? Why aren't we going into the Ecuadorian league? You know, why can't we go and do it now? If we don't want to sign and spend tens of millions of pounds on players, why can't we go and pick up a signing from one of those leagues? Whichever way you look at this, in my view, is that if we don't sign players, we can't complain, right? If we go and sign a big name and they're flop, we're screwed. And we've not gone into a different market. So I think whichever way we look at it, everything right now for me is a gamble. Frenchy says, if we don't get Europe, we are done. We need to back the manager. Should we sign Mbappe? Yeah, the Johnny Evans leaving after 5 months is very worrying sign. That's why Nicky but left as well. That was a linked and we're no respected too. Jackson B, thanks mate. Some fans sound like they are writing a transfer wish list to Santa. Yeah, you know, look, this is why. This is why I'm not talking about an Anderson signing. This is why I'm not talking about those sorts of signings. I would love a brilliant signing, but I also want a gem signing. You know, I don't always just want these Premier League proven players, right? I want us to do something different. Now, I want us to go and get a Solskjaer. Now, what we should be doing, in my view here, is we should be signing maybe one top class player a year, and then we supplement them with signings that we go and picked, and you may laugh at this, but like a Forlan, right? Forlan wasn't an amazing player when he was here, but he did do some good stuff. But you look at the player that he went on to be, right? Those are the sorts of signings. You look at a Hernandez, right? Javier Hernandez, brilliant signing. Like he never set the world alight. Don't get me wrong. He was one of those players that I would love to have now. Like one of those sorts of players. And I agree with you. I think we need to sign a at least one good player. Only now because we need to shore up our team. But I'd love to see us go and sign a player that nobody expects, that doesn't cost the world. But we're not that team, and it is scary. Tevez was a terrier on the pitch, yeah, but look, he was, but I've got no time for Tevez. I agree on Gomez for January. Monaco 1, Galatasaray 0. He'd fail the medical. We need Baleba and Valverde, says Chad. Leeds, says Liam. We are gonna 5 games in a row, give the guy a haircut, bring in a CM, destroy everyone, win the title and the FA Cup, and next season we go for the quad. Ivan, mate, I love it. Look, guys, sometimes I can be a miserable git, but look, I encourage you guys to be as out there, bring in your opinions. It doesn't matter how wild they are. I actively encourage you guys to bring in your comments. And look, one of you eventually is going to be right. Like one of us is going to be right. Sometimes it means if I'm wrong, you guys are right and we've done fantastically well. Sometimes it means that I'm right and we've been shit. But look, guys, it doesn't mean that you guys can't. Ollie Bird says you're just repeating Webby and O'Neill. Mate, number one, I don't watch them. Number two, does that not mean that that all United fans are starting to feel the same? People have their own views. This is my community, and if I sound like other people, that pleases me, because it basically means that people care passionately about this club. So Ollie Burt, I hate to disappoint you. I'm not repeating anybody. I'm having my opinion, and you guys are having your opinion. And if this community ends up having a conversation that sounds like other people, well, it's because quite clearly people are passionate on the subject. Rangers Clip says hi, maybe on a PlayStation, but never in real life. Niche Fan Legend says Spanish press is saying we're on for Bellingham. Mate, do not believe it. Do not believe it. I agree it stands at Fordham. Blaber is coming in the January window, according to Indicator. Mate, Indicator, I mean, look, I think Indicator were once right, and now, yeah, they're just total bollocks, mate. Dr. Legend says hi. Hello, Dr. Legend. United's owners are just trying to bleed the fans of every penny. They will stop investing in players and start to borrow more money for the stadium, which means more debt, no players, and no success. I don't disagree with you. I'm not going to go into the Glazers tonight. You know how I feel about the Glazers. Yeah, absolute scum shit. Do you wear glasses? No, I don't. I don't wear glasses. Simon says we won the title in 2013. Last night it was dances with Wolves. They have Arsenal and Brentford next. Oh, Jesus. When Wolves lose the next 2 games, they will equal Sheffield United's run of 17 games without a win. Harif says, what's been more impressive, United's points tally or Liverpool's demise? I don't revel in anybody's losses, not even Liverpool's. I concentrate on my club. I stay in my lane. I find it incredible, not impressive. I find it incredible that a team that won the league last season, a team that spent near enough £500 million, and forgive me if that figure's wrong, a team that spent nearly £500 million. That is the surprising thing to me is outrageous. A team that's imploded. And it goes to show you, if you've got a coach who is the embodiment of that club, it doesn't matter who you are, money doesn't solve the problem. And to go back to what Usman was saying, and Liam, was saying, who's out there to sign? Do we learn the lesson from Liverpool, who went out and spent £500 million? What's more important, the players or the coach? And again, this is where we can have that Amorim debate again. You've got Slot, inherited that Klopp team, giving him a season, giving him £500 million. Look, if that was Amorim, he would be absolutely blasted. And I'm telling you now, if that was Amorim and he had those players and that team was bought for him right now, I would be Amorim out, because Amorim would have had his players. I've got no problem in being a manager out if he's got his players. So for me, it's incredible. I think it's incredible that a manager who's had that much spent on him with a title-winning team has done that. Kevin says, you don't sound... Kevin, mate, it's old. Kevin, it's old, my friend. It is absolutely old. Doesn't matter, mate. The relegation-threatened clubs are doing surprisingly well for a change. Fair play to Sunderland. Your caption is rage bait. I disagree that is rage bait at all. I don't see how it is rage bait. Like, who am I trying to bait? The facts are, and I'll give you the Mainoo thing as well, right? So the facts are, and gone. Let me give you the facts, right? Andy Mitten and Whitwell today, two of the people who go into the press conferences, who are two people who ask questions, they're two people who get things from the club, have basically said, I don't sense that United will do anything in the January window. This is not their objective. This is not my opinion. This is not my words. I've not plucked this from my arse. This is what they have said. I don't sense they're going to get a bargain signing to cover them in the January window. Next summer will offer the best opportunity to get the long-term targets for value and a good contract. They will also know what picture they are going to be in, because we're in a state of flux and don't know if we'll have European... Mate, they're not signing anybody. Right now, for me, they're not signing. Mate, these are not my words, gone. These are the words of people who are close to the club. It's not me. I hope none of our players pick up any injuries on the festive season at home with their presence. Tulip Plays says, hi JB. Tulip, you're a legend. I'll definitely make a signing, but it could be a loan. And Tulip, I've said this. The Gallagher signing, for me, I think that's been nailed on. Go back through the videos. I have been adamant on that probably since September. If we do a signing, unless Mainoo gets sold, which potentially he could leave or get sold, we will get a Gallagher in, and I will die on that hill. Baleba available for £75 million. I've been winding up my greengrocer about the Villa. They always say we haven't got money, but we'll have to do a deal in Jan. Look, Sully, mate, I hope so. Why so many? What the F is wrong with him? Carthy, we can get on to the Mainoo thing next. Let's just go for these chats. Gaffer doesn't rate him exactly. The more he stays on the bench, the lower his value goes. United is a clowns club of all times. Can you use pure profit to sign Baleba, who's basically the same player but with more legs? Yeah. I think somebody made a point of, couldn't you loan Belabor for like an option to buy, and then you send Mainoo the other way on loan, but you don't do a swap deal because that doesn't make sense, right? But you could almost do let Mainoo go to a Brighton on loan, and then Belabor comes sort of a try before you buy, you know. Even when May need to play, he wouldn't be on for 60 minutes. He'd be perfect for La Liga. Villa is a must-win match. I think you'd look better either clean-shaven or a full beard. I think full beard would look great on you. Have a fantastic life. Thank you. It's just my beard. Alex, this is a toughie. Arsenal couldn't do it. Villa are doing well. Prem proven doesn't mean match effective. Nelson, mate, you are right. Look, that is not my belief. I don't believe that we should go through necessarily Premier League proven players. But I'm telling you what United's strategy is. I don't agree with that. I think Kobbie will move on in the summer. A lot of big signings in Prem have not been good so far. Apparently, there are 12 clubs interested in Mainoo. Agreed. Not the time for Ecuadorian League. We have enough young prospects. Never develop them anyway. Hernandez was good when he came on a sub. Thanks, Sid. Chikorita was a great super sub. Berbatov didn't like running but would score. He was a legend. If he wants to sign for United and the money is there, maybe a structured deal. The board might be negligent not to sign. Semenyo, Premier League proven, ticks every box. Gone didn't qualify. And look, Andrew, I don't disagree with that. Again, this is a place to bring in your thought. Look, I don't disagree with it. I think that's a very intelligent comment. I think that's fair play. Semenyo's not coming, my friend. He's just not. And again, I think you're right. And you said if. Sadly, I don't think he's coming. I also think Semenyo where would he fit in? Where would Semenyo fit into this side? If we're going to get rid of Mason Mount, then you could argue those front 3 10s, but then we'd have another 10. You could also argue, Andrew, that obviously are we going to sign plays just in case Amorim doesn't last? Semenyo's one of those players that I think he would be nice to have. I just don't know where Semenyo right now would fit the way that Amorim plays. Doesn't mean that I don't think you're right. Doesn't mean that I don't want him. It's just for me, I don't understand where Amorim would play him. You're not going to win the title. I think we will win the league in 2033. I'll be happy with top 4 and FA Cup, says Alex. Ishmael says, no, fans are focusing on the right player for Amorim's system, just chucking names at random players. Minoz at Palace, I agree with you. He plays wing back up. Agree with you. I think he'd be a fantastic player. Casemiro was making me tear my hair out against Wolves. Soon as he gets the ball, he just gives it away. Doesn't even look where he's passing. Take a touch on control. Agree with you. Vitinha is a great option. I don't look. Vitinha is not coming, is he? CM would make a huge difference. Tulip again. So right. United just need to sell the club and remove the Glazers. The problem is United won't move forward without an actual owner who cares about the best interests and putting the club first. Matt, mate, spot on, Matt. Why is it when United score against teams we are controlling, do we drop so deep waiting for teams to score against us? When will it change and who do we need to change it? I think it's a combination. It's a combination of Amorim being shit scared. Like, it's a combination of Amorim believes, and if you listen to him speak, Amorim believes that you can have more defensive players to control the ball better, because in his mind, if you've got more defensive players, then you basically are able to turn over the ball more frequent and quicker. So you've got more control of the ball, and then you feed the forward players. But at the moment, the problem is that we've got the forward players, but we've got no link. We've literally got the pivot is shit, and we've got no link between those defensive players to win the ball back, and we don't have ball winning centre midfielders. So you can argue change of players. The players are not going to go. Amorim, original says a CM in Jan is the minimum. Otherwise, Ratcliffe and the guys have failed at their job. The Glazers should have never been allowed to take over the club. Alex, agree with you completely. They bought Andy Carroll 2.0 and Isaac. Isaac is shocking. Matt, what a waste of time. Ekatike is all Liverpool needed. They could have invested Isaac money in the defence. I agree. Looks like salary's a little turd, says Paul. Young lad from Bayern, Carl looks, yeah, he does. Tonight he did look good. Salah is getting old. He needs to be sold because he's not helping the squad. No player is bigger than the club. Matt, I agree with you on that, my friend. What do you think of Villa? Do you like Villa? Yes, I do. Fiona, look, Aston Villa are an historical team. Villa, are a sleeping giant. I think what happened to Villa with the financial fair play when you had to sell players, I think is a load of bollocks. I've got a lot of respect for Aston Villa. European Cup winners. A very, very historic club. Villa, absolute fantastic. Do you wear 100% cotton hoodies? Robin Van Persie was also class. Mbappe, Semenyo would be very odd signing. How many more African players do we need? African every 2 years, says Liam. I don't disagree, Paul. He's Liverpool all over. Is Hull really as scary as it sounds? Yes. We don't need any more tenors. We need more baritones. I love that. Would you bring Mo Salah to United if he got out of Liverpool? No. Liverpool need defenders, not another attacker. Chiesa doesn't get minutes. How is Semenyo going to get minutes? Marlo says, yo, hello, Marlo. Palace Edits, legend of the chat, my friend. I hope you're doing extremely well. Legend. I agree, but we've seen how many defenders he used against Everton, and they don't win the duel versus Barry. His tactics when we're a man up or not work for so long. Yeah, I don't disagree. Paul, Swansea Villa for upset for the title. Paul, Swansea, mate. I love Swansea. I'm Paul. I'm actually from there. I know the accent doesn't give it away, but I'm actually originally from Swansea. So Paul, I'd love Villa to win the title. Obviously I want us to win the title. I don't think that will happen, but mate, I am all for it. And the fact, Paul, that I think your name means that you're from Swansea. Big up to you, my friend. My favourite team was the 2008 Rooney, Ronaldo, and Tevez. Who is your favourite to win the World Cup, Manga? I don't know, mate. You've got to put Germany up there. You've got to put England up there. Did Croatia? Didn't Croatia have a good one as well? I don't know. I think you've got to put Argentina up there. I think you've got to put Germany up there. I think you've got to put Brazil, maybe not. England up there. I think someone was talking about Holland as well. Spain. I think Spain. Don't get me wrong. I like Amorim. If he got sacked, who else is there? The players are the same. They were with the managers. Eventually, they'll play for the badge again. Exactly. You got France. You say you lot need defenders, not forwards, but former Blade and now in Everton. Ndoye would be a game changer. Everyone wants Portugal to win. Manga. I don't. I couldn't care less. Look, I'm Welsh, right? Hopefully Wales will qualify for the World Cup. I don't think they will. I'm not one of these people who basically prescribe to the fact that Cristiano is going to win the World Cup. I don't care. Ireland will win when we qualify, mate. Ireland all the way, mate. I'm Welsh, right? So England, my family, my children are half English. My wife is half English. My household, when it comes to World Cups, are an English household. but I sort of take a back seat to it. But Ireland, Scotland, Wales. Manga says call Bale back to save Wales in the World Cup. Wales have got to qualify first, mate. Wales have got to qualify. Scotland will not get out of the group stage. Simon, they probably won't do. They probably won't do. They absolutely will not. But I'm glad that they're there. I hope us and Wales get through. It would be savage. Imagine Northern Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. Mate, it would be awesome. It would be absolutely brilliant. I think we'll get Champions League this season. Look, Reds, mate, I hope you're right, my friend. I would love you to be right. So look, let's move away. Let's get on to. I wanted to get on to the Chelsea thing, right? So podcast. Look, Nicky Butt, Paul Scholes. I don't know if you've seen the podcast. Nicky Butt, I really like. I really like Nicky Butt. He was the youth development coach, wasn't he? When he left and he exposed the club, I thought when Nicky Butt left, he was really respected. The players thought he was fantastic. The players, the young players respected him because not only did he know about the club, he knew what he was on about. And these young players who are coming through, somebody like Nicky Butt, Nicky Butt is probably, when we talk about ex-players, is Nicky Butt a legend? No, he's not a legend. But I think that Nicky Butt was still a fantastic player. Was a fantastic player. I think people underestimate Nicky Butt a lot. I thought he was a fantastic player. So when you've got him in that role, it's perfect because he come up through the ranks. He understands what the club is. He was part of title winning sides. I played with some of the best players now, and he was a fantastic player himself. So the fact that he was in that role and left, I thought was an absolute disgrace. So he's been talking with Paul Scholes on the podcast. Now, Paul Scholes, fantastic player. I can take or leave Scholesy. But those two on a podcast, it is quite an interesting podcast. Now, Nicky Butt, when he talks, I like to listen to Nicky Butt because I do think he's got a lot of good things to say. He basically said that for his football career, I think he has to leave. He's lost the last 18 months of development, and I hope he goes abroad because otherwise it will be embarrassing. Scogey then goes on and says, if Chelsea come in for him, I would go. But Nicky Butt says if he goes to Chelsea, which they might get him, and they will form a very good squad. Now, look, Chelsea are chasing Mainoo. Let's be clear on this one. The fact that Nicky Butt and look, Mainoo, right? I think Mainoo is the main topic of conversation. You look at a player 18 months ago, 2 years ago, was getting into a Euros final with England, right? How can he go from that to this? Whether or not Mainoo right now is not the player that he was, and we can argue, we can argue and we can debate on whether we think that Mainoo is a good player or not. The travesty of all this to me is 18 months. Why have we allowed Kobbie Mainoo to get to this position? Now, again, I think it's irrespective right now of whether or not Kobbie Mainoo is a good player. Kobbie Mainoo was. So in the last 18 months, how have we failed Kobbie Mainoo? Because it's not about Kobbie Mainoo has failed us. He's a young kid who's come through. Why have we failed him? What not us, the fans, but what has this club done to fail one of our own players who has come through because I don't think Kobbie Mainoo right now is the Kobbie Mainoo that he was. How can he be? He didn't play well last season, which is quite typical, by the way, of a younger player. he's barely been played this season. And what are we expecting? So look, I think the Kobbie Mainoo debate here. I think this season, look, I don't think Kobbie Mainoo is the same player he was. I guarantee you, if he went to a Chelsea or he went to another club that played him, you would see within 6 months the player that he was. For me, what have we done as a club to 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 reduce that talent to what Kobbie Mainoo is now? Now, and if we're talking about that Euros where he played and he was fantastic, what are you talking? £80 million? What's he worth now? 40 million? You know, we have this habit of just destroying these young players. And I think Kobbie Mainoo, and I think Nicky Butt is right. You know, Nicky Butt saying for his football career, he has to leave. He's lost 18 months, and I hope he goes abroad because it is embarrassing. I agree with Nicky Butt on this. I absolutely agree with it. I think it is embarrassing. We could still have. We had a gem, and look at what we're doing to Kobbie Mainoo. Not as fans. And look, I think the argument is there right now, and it's a valid one, that Kobbie Mainoo is not the player that he was. I'm not arguing that because I don't think he makes a difference. I don't think he can. I don't think he gets the game time. So how can Mainoo be a good player right now? He's not. But for me, the argument here for me is that how does he go from being a potential, and I'm going to say a potential world-class player? I don't think he was, but you know, on that road to being one of these young stars, to now barely getting a game. His feelings must be on the floor. You know, he must be just so gutted. You know, and how have we gone from that? You know, you've got to blame the youth, the coaches. You've got to blame the club, massively blame the club. You also got to blame the teammates around him for that lack of success, because that lack of success has basically meant we don't get as many games. I think if we had European football, you can argue the Grimsby game as well, fine. But if we had more games, I think Kobbie Mainoo would be playing more. And you've got to blame this coach. You've got to blame every aspect of this, because Kobbie Mainoo for me has been let down, not by the fans. He's been let down time and time again by this club. Kobbie Mainoo is a homegrown player. Kobbie Mainoo is one of us. People will go, oh, you know, but he's one of us. And when I say that, he's one of this club. He is brought through this club. We have a tradition of bringing through these young players, you know. And again, you know, I can only go back as far as I go back, you know, and bringing, you know, even bringing in the likes of Roy Keane. But I'm talking about, you know, Giggsy, you know, Beckham, Scholesy, Bart, Neville's, right? And we've got Kobbie Mainoo, who, and again, has been touted as one of these talents, come through, showed the talent, and now he's to a point whereby this player, this young player, has been brought down so much that he wants to leave. Now, and then when you've got people like Nicky Butt, and look, I don't believe these players know a lot of stuff, right? But when they're talking about, because this does go into a lot of what people have been saying about him, that Chelsea are serious contenders for him, you know. And then when you've got players like Scholesy, you know, an absolute legend like of this club, saying that he would go to Chelsea if they came in for him, you know. And you got Nicky Butt, and look, don't sleep on Nicky Butt. You know, that this guy was a fantastic player, had a good career, you know, was really highly regarded he was at this club, and basically saying that if for his football career, for his very career, he should leave this club. A club that employed him, a club that gave him, a lot, and basically saying, and from a coach's perspective, saying that he's lost the last 18 months, and he hope he goes abroad, and it would be embarrassing. And he says if he goes to Chelsea, which they might, his form, and he'll be a very, very good squad player. I mean, it baffles me. This club at times just absolutely just baffles me. So tonight, look, let me go through the comments, and then we'll. Someone says each season we focus on one or two particular players. Last time it was Rashi and Sancho, the two key players, but this time it's Mainoo. Who will it be next time? Mainoo is like Rashi, someone who has been a key player at this club for years. If we sell or loan players to Chelsea, would Chelsea do the opposite? I mean, would you want Mason Mount again? Simon, I've got PTSD over Mason Mount. We got absolutely scammed. I wouldn't want their players. Simon says United is more complex than the Matrix trilogy. I love it. So look, to round up tonight, this is where we are. I've been saying this all season. I hate saying it. I despise saying this, but my position remains as this. I miss the old rivalry with Arsenal. So do I, mate. So do I. Before I go, look, as a summary of where we are, and I have been saying this all season, and I hate it. The rhetoric, and it will be, there's no value in this market. And look, Andy Mitten and these guys coming out and saying that United's, I don't sense that United would do anything in the window. That's not their objective, to do anything in the window. They don't sense they're going to get a bargain signing. They are waiting till next summer to get the best opportunity, to get the best value and the best contract, because ultimately we're in a state of flux and we don't know if we're going to get European football. This is our club. Welcome to this club. Welcome to this club who are on the bones of their arse. We are making a loss. We've been spun around. The money was there. The money isn't there. I can see it. I can see it. My take on this now is, look, we have got 22 days until the window opens. This is why they're putting it out now, because they're managing your expectations. I guarantee you, if we don't win the next 2 or 3 games, there'll be spin again. We'll be signing this player and that's player. I am on this hill. I will die on this hill. We will sign Gallagher or another. I will be absolutely stunned if we do anything else in this window. So look, be careful of the spin. Look, Andy Mitten has put it out there. Whitwell has put it out there. It's all there. They've been briefed by the club and they're briefing us. They are briefing you. They're briefing me that this club is not planning on doing anything substantial in this window. Here we go. And Kobbie Mainoo, look, we're going to see. We're going to see. Graham, Andrew said, Trench Gun says, Mainoo to Chelsea would be an absolute disgrace. And I'm an Arsenal fan. I agree with you completely, mate. Andrew says, Mainoo doesn't fit Amorim's system, 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3. Fast feet, tight close control, and counter-attacking football. Andrew, agree. Mate, agree. But my argument here is that how have we allowed this young, talented man to become what he has been? Graham Legend says, Muckle Masters, where have you come to say hello to let me know? Graham, you are a legend. It has been a great stream as always. Try to catch it when I can to see what the latest news is, and I enjoy the banter on here. Simon, mate, legend. Look, look, Simon, absolutely love it, mate. I love the chat on here. You guys are absolutely brilliant. Graham says, you're not in Europe. No, we're not, my friend. I think they just see him as a payday. I don't disagree. It's profit, isn't it? It is pure profit. And it's almost like they're coming to asset strip the club. Please take Saka. We've got better players in that position. I know it's controversial, but Saka is the most overrated player ever. And do you know what? That is a very interesting opinion. I don't hear that often, actually. Interesting. Look, guys, I am going to go an hour and 40 minutes. That sort of makes up, like, I do try to do 2 streams a day. This week at work has been absolutely horrendous, so I've not been able to do a show during the day. Hopefully tomorrow I can do a show tomorrow during the day. But look, I don't like to stream if there's nothing to talk about, because I'm just not going to be one of those guys who just, it just goes on and talks about every little thing. But if there's a show to do tomorrow afternoon, I will do one. Tyler, nice try. Very, very, very nice try, Tyler. I do appreciate, Tyler. I do appreciate the attempt, and I do appreciate the banter. Been a football fan since 1978. Gwert says, this year we'll be back in Europe. Guys, we have to back Amorim and trust the process. I believe that we can finish second. Mate. And Tyler says, it's worth a shot. Mate, Tyler, I respect the effort. I respect the effort. Banter is welcome here, Tyler. I respect the effort. Absolutely. So look, guys, I will be back tomorrow. Another fantastic stream tonight. Look, guys, I can only. Simon says I will be a United fan until they carry me away. The same, Simon, mate. I remember teletext. I don't know if anybody is as old as me. I'm pretty much now as old as dust, right? I remember back in the day when, like, football was live and free on BBC One. I remember the days when teletext, when you I think it was page 315 or 31 something, and every day, religiously, even now, I always check the scores. I used to go to 3, I think it was 315, and you go and check the scores, or you wait until BBC, and then you'd have that guy that would come on and read out the scores. Absolute, what a time, fantastic. So it's just, football's changed so much. But I will be supporting this club until I'm gone. My children support the club as well. They do. So look, Simon says, good night all, have a good day, legends. Simon, you guys are legends. I hope I'm saying this right. Almorphia. Sorry, mate, if I've destroyed it. 312. Exactly. I loved it. They were the good old days. Absolute fantastic days, my friend. Those were the best days. I remember when we were good, when Arsenal were good. The 90s for me were the best days. Simon says, I used to go to the shop windows just to get the full scores when the shop had a window in when the shop had a TV in the window. I mean, we used to have a telly, right? And basically, we were quite poor, right? So my mum used to basically pay weekly for like a TV. So you used to have a TV man that used to come round with TVs, and every couple of months, so you would change the TV. So my mum would basically pay the TV man every couple of weeks, right? And then when basically the telly broke, he then bring you a brand new TV. And I remember when the first TV that we got that had the teletext on it. Keep smiling says, I remember when Gary Bailey playing. The guys, You know, I do look back to the golden days. You know, I do look back to the days when we were good. But look, those days are gone. We can only look forward, and look, let's hope that, you know, we get some. Someone says, thank heaven for the internet during the 80s. I had to rely on transistor radio for football. I absolutely agree. The late 80s and the 90s are the best, but now it is true. It is all about, it's a thank heaven for football. I had to rely on a transistor radio for football. I love that, Simon. But look, guys, thank you for being here. You guys are legends. You guys make this channel fantastic. Without you guys, and it doesn't matter if you don't support the club. You know, I love your opinions. I love the interactions with you guys. Keep Smiling says my first ever football match was United v Chelsea in the 80s. I mean, look, I absolutely and now I'm a Liverpool fan. I love it, mate. It is look, mate. I love it. It's look, you got. I've got so much. Look, I've got so much respect for fans. You know, I love fans who are older than me. I mean, I'm 42 now, right? But you know, I love listening to like the older fans who have, you know, seen it before me. You know, who have been there when we were not as bad as this, but you know, you sort of lived that time. You probably know more about the club than I do. So look, and I respect all fans, but look, I love talking to, you know, slightly more. I'm going to call you more mature fans, because I've become a mature fan now as well. So look, guys, I will be back tomorrow. I'll always do an evening show, so I will try and do a show during the day tomorrow. I will be back tomorrow evening. I remember that as well. And guys, look, thank you so much for supporting the channel. Thank you for being here, for interacting with me and the chat. And on the whole, everyone is really everyone is very, very respectful on here. And guys, you know, we don't want the banter either. So look, guys, thank you for being here. Legends, you all are legends. I really appreciate you all. And I will be back tomorrow. So look, be safe. And I'll see you tomorrow. So take care, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers, guys.